Hello again everybody, welcome back to the channel. Time for a new video and it's 5 retro Star Wars games to celebrate Star Wars Day. Plan is to get this up for Star Wars Day, but as it's already the 3rd of May and I've only just started making the video, this might be ambitious, but we're going to give it a try anyway. Hopefully you'll know if it made it up in time. You might not watch it till like the 6th or 7th of May anyway, so it could be a waste of time what I'm saying, but that's the plan for the video anyway. And let's just get this out of the way. I'm not saying these are the best Star Wars games. In fact, I had to change this list several times because you know me, I like to put a magazine review up, and some of the games I wanted to put up, it was very hard to find reviews for. I wanted TIE Fighter, for example, because I absolutely loved that game, but I couldn't find a review for it anywhere, so unfortunately had to let that one off the list. But anyway, I'm still happy with the games that are on this list, and there are a lot of Star Wars games to choose from, and as it happens, a lot of good ones. There's a few dogs as well, but you know, we left them off the list. One of these the games on the list isn't the best, but you know, there's a few memories attached to it, so that's why I like it. Anyway, without further ado, let's crack on with the video. So the first game we have on this list is Star Wars for the Spectrum, released by Domark in 1987, based on the coin-op arcade cabinet game, which was fantastic. I'm sure if you're of my age, or you know, if you go to any retro arcade now, they would have Star Wars in there probably, but if you're my age, I'm sure you played the heck out of this if you're into Star Wars, of course, like I was. And yeah, absolutely love this game in the arcades. The downside to this version, unfortunately, is there's no sound, which is disappointing. Of course, very disappointing. I've seen a few YouTube videos now where people have played this with sound, so I don't know if there's been a patched version or, you know, a newer version of this game with sound, but I'm pretty sure there's videos out there with this game and sound. So the original Specky release that was in 1987 did not have sound. It had the gameplay, and the gameplay's pretty good, like it's pretty accurate considering, you know. Yeah, unfortunately no sound, which is disappointing. We can't really obviously complain too much, I guess, like I've said with other games recently, you know, that we had our technical limitations back then, and I guess they put everything into recreating the arcade experience as much as they couldn't put the sound in. So we'll see what the review's got to say. This is from Crash. As ever, when we do a Specky game, we try and get the Crash review because I used to like that the most. I find them the best reviews personally, but again, to each their own. If you've got a different opinion, let's read the review. I'm just going to read the basic review on these. I'm not going to read any of the comments, and some of them I'm not going to read a review for because some of the reviews I had to dig deep into the resources, and some of the reviews are quite long. Like the next one coming up, the next game, the review is 4 pages, so it would take forever to read. So I'm going to be picking out snippets. For this one, I'm going to read the whole review, but we're not going to deal with the individual comments. So here we go. Is the Force with you? It had better be if you're going to survive waves of Empire TIE fighters and their deadly missiles, and then take a plug at the massive Death Star. And as in the mega blockbuster Star Wars movie of 1977, the Death Star must be destroyed if your rebel planet is not to be torn asunder. You fly a small X-Wing fighter. A force field surrounds it, giving protection against 9 impacts from fireballs, and later collisions with laser towers and trench catwalks on the Death Star's surface. Each strike reduces its shield strength. An onboard laser armed with a cursor is your only defense, and can take out enemy fighters, laser towers, bunkers, trench turrets, and approaching fireballs, amassing points through destruction. If you can deal with all the Dark Empire's fighters and their missiles, you have to aim for the Death Star itself. There, your X-Wing must be steered between a series of vertical laser towers whilst countering yet more fireballs. And you're still not home and dry and Mark Hamill, yet more fireballs fill your forward view. And again, these must be promptly blasted. Shield-ripping barriers can completely destroy your craft. Survive these terrors and you can unleash a photon torpedo into the Death Star's exhaust port. How predictable that its one vulnerable spot is difficult to get at. If you miss, you can circumnavigate the Death Star to fire a second shot. Complete this mission and there's another harder game. Just like the film, if it's worth seeing once, it's worth seeing 64 times. 64, oh, is that all? And Domark already has licenses for Atari's coin-ops, The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, the 2 cinema sequels to Star Wars. Spectrum versions are promised for 1988. Yes, so there were other games to choose from, but I went back and thought I'd choose the original. Wasn't about the best games as such, we're just talking about some Star Wars games, so I thought it's best to start at the beginning. And I think most people have got more memories of this one in the arcades. Well, personally speaking, that's for me. Maybe other people have got memories of the other ones, but these are the ones I remember the most. So we're going to look at the comments, not all of them, because some of them are irrelevant. Graphics, simple and effective vector graphics. Sound, which is the big bugbear, famous Star Wars tune at the beginning, but no in-game sound. I'm not quite sure if they bought the rights to the Star Wars tune, why they didn't just keep it looping. maybe throughout the game, but there you go. General rating: a long-awaited official conversion that's very playable but improves little on Star Strike and others of the genre. Still, 2 reviewers smashed it, and we'll look at those in a second. Presentation 82%, graphics 84%, playability 85%, addictive quality 79%, and overall 84%. Note they didn't put a mark for sound, which I'm assuming would probably be around 10% or 20 maybe if you want to give it for the Star Wars tune, but obviously for the game itself there's no sound at all. The marks, we're not going to, like I said, read all the individual comments like we normally do. Mike gave 90% and Bim 92%, so they're the two that gave it crash smashes. They did mention the sound briefly, mostly it didn't detract from their marks. Robin, however, only gave 69%, and the sound was a big damper for him personally, or her. But there you go. So if you've got memories of playing this game in the arcades, I think you'd have a great time with it. You might miss the sound if you're used to playing it in the arcades, of course. If there is a version out there with sound, do let me know. I'm pretty sure I've seen some on YouTube, so they might be out there, but yeah, let me know, because that will be interesting. I mean, I can't remember if I've actually added this to the Spectrum yet, so if we can find a version with sound, that will be great to add. But still a great game though, still worth playing if you've never played it before, especially if you've got memories of playing this in the arcades. Okay, game number 2 is Super Star Wars for the SNES, which was released in 1992. Now this review, the only one I could find that was really decent, is spread over 4 pages, so you're going to have to do some pausing on this one and maybe some zooming in if that's possible, stuff like that, to read this properly if that's what you want to do. But for some reason they go over every single stage of the game. And also, if you don't want to know the stages and all the details, because I'm not going to read the whole thing because it would just take too long to read, but obviously you can avoid the spoilers on that by just listening to what I've got to say about it if you want, rather than like zooming in on any of the features and stuff. I just went with this review. I had a second one which was 3 pages I think, but it just was very murky and didn't look very nice. This one was a nice looking review. It's just a shame that obviously they go into so much detail. I'm not sure what magazine this was, to be honest with you, but it is a very nice review. It's just obviously, and there's so many words. I can't read all of it. I never had a SNES, so I never played it on there. I had a Star Wars game for the Game Boy, which I've got a feeling may have been based on this. I really don't know, to be honest with you. Maybe you guys can let me know on that one. It may have been a version of this. It wasn't called Super Star Wars as far as I remember. I thought it was just called Star Wars, but I could be wrong on that one. But I vaguely remember that. I remember it being like a Star Wars platform game, so I'm assuming it was the same one, but could be wrong. But yes, I've played this on the PlayStation of all things. They brought out a version for the PlayStation, and I think it's still on my PS5 actually at this present moment in time. But I bought it, I think, for the PS4, so that's where I'm more familiar with playing this game more than anything. But obviously we're going to play kudos to where it came out originally, and that was obviously on the SNES. So I'm sure many of you have probably had a SNES before and maybe would have played it. Quite an interesting thing from the top of the reviews when we're talking about games of the modern era and how much they cost. This game, it says price £50 to £75 and that was back in 1992. So there's a lot of people bitching about the fact that games cost 70 quid these days. Yeah, you might have paid £75 for this back in the day for an 8-bit Star Wars game, which is crazy when you think about it. Not to say there's anything wrong with that necessarily, it is what it is, but maybe it's not quite so bad the game's being that expensive now. I mean, to be honest, don't get me wrong, I'm the first person to complain when things are too expensive, so but it's funny, isn't it, to think that games, they were quite expensive still back in the day, but not all of them. For our beloved speckies and stuff like that, we used to get decent value for, you can get some games for like 2 quid, it was crazy. But yeah, £75. I was really surprised when I read that, but I have heard people say that as a comparison, but I never had a Super Nintendo, so I wouldn't have known. But anyway, for those of you that don't want to know the stages, if you want to mute for about 30 seconds or skip ahead, I'm just going to read them out. So we've got the deserts of Tatooine, the land speeder, then climbing the sandcrawler, inside the sandcrawler, the land of the sand people, land of the Banthas, heading for Mos Eisley spaceport, cantina fight, escape from Mos Eisley, then, and I'm just making sure I'm getting all in the right order, yes, Death Star hangar bay, Death Star corridors, tractor beam core, attack on the Death Star, and the last stage is the trench. Hopefully that was about 30 seconds so people can have come back in at the right point. And I'm going to look at the last part. See, I'm trying to zoom in on this review myself, but quite difficult to zoom in on it to be able to read it at this present moment in time because I've got 4 pages stuck together here. But this is where the reviews are, the scores anyway. They gave it graphics 88%, sound 91%, gameplay 87%, game life 86%, overall score 89%. Lots of levels, brilliant graphics, incredible music, and well-paced difficulty curve make this most accurate of film conversions one of the best. It's bugged by slowdown on occasion, but not enough to spoil it. And for those of you that didn't know, they also did a Super Empire Strikes Back and a Super Return of the Jedi. I chose the originals because I kind of felt that was the best way to do it, although obviously I mixed it up for the next game after this, but I just figured we'll go back to the style. I don't know if any of these were better than the others. You can probably tell me if Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi were the better ones out of the three, but I just thought it was, for me, we'll go back to the beginning one. And I've played Super Star Wars as well, so I haven't played any of the others at all. Yeah, but this was a lot of fun. It's like a platforming style game for those of you that haven't played it. Someone described it as Luke Skywalker turns a bit like into Mario, which I'm not quite sure that's accurate, but you know, I guess it's just because it's platforming and stuff, and obviously until you get to the stage where you're attacking the Death Star. But yeah, a lot of fun this game. I do like a platform game. I'm not like, you know, the biggest platform game fan, but I do like one from now and again. And yeah, this was fun, a lot of fun to play, and I'm sure probably you've played it more than I have potentially, but let me know what you think in the comments. I really had a blast playing this for the video, and it's a game I think I'm going to play some more. I haven't played that much on my PlayStation, to be honest, but once I finished playing it for the video yesterday, I was a bit like, I'm going to have to start playing that on the PlayStation. I know it's installed on there because it's only about 50 megabytes. It's not a very big game, so it's perfect to keep on the PlayStation. Sometimes I run out of room on there, but you know, I'm not going to delete a 50 megabyte game for sure. And yeah, great game for back in the day, and still a great game to this day. Moving on to the next game. This is Return of the Jedi, made by Domark again, 1988, and this is on the Amiga. It's funny actually, this only came out a year after the Spectrum game came out, so obviously the graphics have taken a little bit of a leap. This game wasn't the best. And it sounds silly for me to include, but I told you these weren't the best games. But the reason I included this game was because it was based on the arcade version of Return of the Jedi, and I played that game a lot in the arcades, and so I wanted to include a version of that. And I figured, well, you know, we talk about the Amiga a lot, and I can play the game on the Mini, so why not? You know, why not include that version? I'm not going to turn around and say this is the best game ever made. Graphics they're not great, but you know, they do the job. But you can tell what things are, and obviously, if you're a fan of the arcade game that it's based on, then yeah, it's worth it, I think. This magazine only gave it 63%. The site I go on, Lemon Amiga, they didn't give it much either, around about 50%. So yeah, it's not the best, you know, but still, if you're a fan of the arcade experience, then I don't think you can go far wrong. We're back to a single page review here, which is good. Let's have a little read. I don't remember where this review came from. Oh, we've got to look. It's Amiga Computing. Okay, so there we go. Yeah, there weren't many reviews. In fact, I called up one review because it said it was from the Amiga, and they had graphics for the Commodore 64 version on there, so I couldn't even find that one. But I don't know what the quality of journalism is from this place, but we're going to read it anyway. All is not well on Endor. Those Imperial stormtroopers are harassing the populace, the awe-inspiring, oh-so-cute Ewok. Although the most marketable thing to come out of Lucasfilms, they are right violent little beggars if you happen to be a stormtrooper. True. Leia and Luke are a bit cut off in the forest of Endor, sounds painful, and have to run the gauntlet of stormtroopers on speeder bikes. One character doesn't get a Luke in, so Leia is controlled by your mouse or joystick. The whole bit is like Spy Hunter with a Zaxxon perspective, plus added trees and Ewok traps. Stormtroopers can cease to be stormtroopers in several interesting ways. They can be shot, they can collide with you or bits of tree, or they can be tracked by Ewoks. Ouch. It's all nice, fast and jolly with a kitschy little end sequence which I won't spoil for you. Like all the Star Wars games, first level is ridiculously easy. The option to start at different levels is welcome. Second bit has Lando Calrissian, any relation of Lando my father's, oh god, that's a terrible joke, piloting the Millennium Falcon down the reactor tube of the Death Star. Using the same perspective as the forest bit, it is basically a question of avoiding sticky out bits and the annoying little TIE fighter bits. Shoot the reactor and get the rude word out of there, otherwise it's crispy fried Calrissian time. Now you are Chewbacca at the controls of a scout walker trying to run the gamut of logs and rocks on your way to the bunker. Since walkers are big, you have no way of telling the good people of Endor that it's only you, and could you please tone down the violence a tad. Moving logs can be shot, but the big piles of them have to be strolled around. Stroll is the word, rather Spindly Walker moves as if it has bad feet. Not to worry, it gets you to the bunker which gets blown up as soon as you arrive. Friends, who needs them? Interspersed with Chewbacca's mechanical promenade is a split wave with Lando flying towards Death Star. Just when you get to the quiet bit in the walker, you flick to Lando and get blasted virtually instantly and return to Chewbacca. It's meant to heighten the tension, but all it does is lose lives. That may make sense for Mr. Arcade owner, but not really in the home. Big admission time, I haven't seen the film. My god. So did destroy the Death Star and then suddenly want to fly towards it seems a little bizarre to me. Everything is carried out the way you'd expect on an Amiga, sampled speech from the film, pretty graphics, switch off the brain and be prepared for some unsophisticated violent enjoyment. Return of the Jedi is grand while it lasts, but since it's a little superfish, as in superficial, not as in halibut, that may not be forever. Decipher that how you will. I don't like when they put these bars as well, because you've got to try and interpret what the review score is. What's that out of? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It's out of, these bars are out of 15 for some weird reason. So that looks like it's 8 out of 15, 9 out of 15. Gameplay is 13 out of 15, 12 out of 15, sorry. And value is what, 6, 7 out of 15. What a weird way to score that. Very bizarre. Overall 63%. So there you go. That's probably an easy way to deal with it. Yeah, if you're a fan of the arcade game, you will get something out of this game, I'm sure. It's not the best, could be better, but I wanted to include the main version. That's probably the best way to play it if you like the arcade games. But we're dealing with computers and consoles here, aren't we? I don't want to talk about emulation as such. So if there's a way you can emulate that, then that's probably the better way to play it. The Amiga version isn't terrible, but it's just not the best. But still, it's Star Wars, and most Star Wars games I find fun personally. So moving on to the fourth game on this list, we have Shadows of the Empire for the Nintendo 64, which was released in Europe in 1997. I believe it squeaked into 1996 for North America, but yeah, for Europe, a 1997 release. I've got a very colourful review for this one, which we'll get onto in a second. This is a game I absolutely loved on the Nintendo 64. Thought it was brilliant at the time. I've played it recently, not 100% sure it's aged as well as I remember, but that being said, it's still a good fun game to play, and I really enjoyed it. And I remember at the time absolutely loving it. And this one's like, looking at the price on the top of this review, I think I can see is 60 quid. Yeah, £59.99. I remember when Nintendo 64 came out, the games were quite expensive for it. So once again, price of games have been that high. We don't remember it that way because we're used to what we used to pay for Commodore 64, ZX Spectrum sort of games. But yeah, I mean, so even some of them could be quite expensive, but you wouldn't see one for about 60 quid. But yeah, some of these consoles they were, and it's a lot of fun. This again, a lot of things based in the Star Wars universe. If you are a Star Wars fan, you're going to have a good time with it, aren't you? Let's face it. And this is definitely one of the better ones from what I can remember. You follow the adventures of someone called Dash Rendar, who's a gun for hire, and he gets embroiled by a criminal overlord's plot to eliminate key members of the Rebel Alliance and the Empire. Put yourself in Rendar's space shoes, and if the Force is with you, maybe you'll prevail against the dark side. So who knows? That's what it says in the review. This review, as colourful and very nice as it is, and it is very nice, it's confusing on how to read it, to be honest with you. It's made up of a series of captions, which is quite a tricky one to read. But I've read part of the first paragraph anyway, so we're not going to go back to that. So I'll read what the reviewer said. And the reviewer looks like, it probably says Paul Davis, but it almost looks like Payne Davis. The way it's written, I don't know. But anyway, we'll read what they say. Like some of the N64 games we've seen, Shadow of the Empire has caused murmurings of I don't know in the office. But being a big Star Wars fan, having played the game all the way through on the easy level, I can't deny that I really enjoyed this. Some of the stages are truly gobsmacking. The snowspeeder section is, to all intents and purposes, real. And flying through the canyons of Gaul Spaceport on your jetpack, then coming face to face with Boba Fett is stupendous. When the game first came in, some onlookers scoffed at the junkyard stage. It's got a minecart level, they mocked. But when you're actually playing, you become completely involved in the 3D-ness of it all, and it takes on all the thrills of a perilous roller coaster ride. If I have to be completely objective about it, I must admit that a lot of the entertainment comes from the fact that the game is set in the Star Wars universe, with Star Wars characters, locations, spacecraft and weapons. If the stormtroopers were space ninjas or Lord Ronco's Shadow Legion, it wouldn't be the same, and I would be more inclined to pick faults with the simplistic Doom style stage. Having said all that, when I get my official N64, this, not Mario, will be the first game I buy with it. There's an endorsement for you. Rating is 4 thumbs up out of 5, or 4 fingers up. I don't know what you want to call that, to be honest. It's a rating. It's 4 out of 5, basically. Not the perfect Star Wars game, but still very impressive, unmissable for fans of the movies. And at the moment, if you haven't played this game before, and you have a PC that you want to play it on, I think it's about £2 on Steam at the moment. They've got a Star Wars sale, they always do around this time of the year. Yeah, and it's a couple of quid, so it's well worth getting. I'm actually considering buying it myself for that. I've got a Nintendo 64 version knocking around somewhere, but I thought, well, it might be good. I'm still considering I want to get a Steam Deck at some point, but I can't afford one. If I can start working my way towards getting back to work with all my health conditions, then yeah, I want to get a Steam Deck at some point. So I kind of figured getting it on like PC and on Steam would be a good move. But yeah, for a couple of quid. I remember the Snowspeeder scenes as well, absolutely mind blowing at the time. So yeah, definitely worth it if you feel like you got a couple. And also there's loads of games on there at the moment. I mean, I was going to pick so many. I mean, I wanted to put TIE Fighter on or X-Wing. Like I said, I couldn't find reviews. They're on there at the moment for a couple of quid. Dark Forces, the original, not the remaster that they brought out last year, but the original version of that, I think it's £1.24, something like that at the moment on Steam. So yeah, some really good games on there. Not that I'm affiliated with Steam in any way, but I'm just saying, if you feel like you want to pick up this, particularly this one, Shadow of the Empire, then go for it. I think even the next game we're going to talk about, which is an absolute stone cold classic and probably my favourite Star Wars game ever, is on there for about £4 at the moment. So yeah, just a little tip for you. But Shadows of the Empire, I remember playing it a lot when I was younger and remember being blown away by it. So definitely worth a go if you've never played it before. It might seem a bit clunky these days, maybe, I don't know, but I mean, I still love GoldenEye, for example, and that can be clunky by modern standards, can't it? But you know, back then it was an absolute classic. So you know, I think definitely worth a look without a doubt, and at this present moment in time, definitely worth a purchase on the PC. Little tip for you there. And finally, I gave it the big build up. The last game we're going to talk about is Knights of the Old Republic. Now, I've picked the Xbox version here, although ironically the review's the PC version, so I just noticed that when I was about to start recording. But I want to talk about the Xbox version because it was groundbreaking for me when it first came out. I probably played it more on the PC. I've also now got it on the Switch as well, so I've also got it on my phone as well. That's how brilliant this game is. I remember when it came out on my phone, I just couldn't believe I could carry it around in my pocket. It was amazing. But obviously I've since graduated to the Switch version, which I've played to death. I've also got the second one as well on my Switch. What a game. What an absolute joy to play this game. I was a bit sort of hesitant because I didn't know a lot about that era of Star Wars when I started playing it, but it doesn't matter. You know, it really doesn't. You know, you just start playing it and you get sucked into that Star Wars universe and you feel a massive part of it, and it's a great game. It's a great game. The brilliant RPG. I mean, if you've got even a passing interest in Star Wars, you're going to love this game. And I would imagine most of you, if you've got an interest in Star Wars, have played this game. I think it's widely considered to be the best Star Wars game out there. Certainly would get that in my opinion, and there's no way it wasn't going on this list for me. Even though I'm not doing the best games, this is the game I could talk to. In fact, I've got to struggle. I'm trying to keep my talking down to about 5 minutes on each game. I'm going to struggle to make it with this one because I've got a lot to say, but I'm not going to say it now. Maybe we'll keep it for another time. One of the things as well is I walked 7.5 miles today and I'm almost out of breath, so I need to keep it fairly brief anyway. So let's have a look at the review. This is actually from PC format. Like I said, I couldn't find an Xbox review that I could put up here, unfortunately. I don't have the energy to read all of this review. It's quite big, it's quite lengthy, but there you go, you'll agree it's a very nice review. Some lovely screenshots on it. I like that where there's got two people standing there, looks like they're having an argument. It's got fish face, leatherhead. They're just insulting each other. It's such a good game though, it really is. It's one of those games where every time you do battles you get experience points and you can level up and you can get force powers and you end up with a lightsaber. Oh man, it's just such a good game. I don't want to spoil it for anybody who's never played it before, and we're going to read a little bit of the review but not loads. There's also Mandalorians in this game as well. Obviously if you've been watching those sort of series and stuff, you'll have reference to that as well. They reckon it's a 25-hour game. I spent a lot more than that on this game before. I guess you can probably do it in 25 hours if you wanted to, but there's a lot to do in this game. I mean, I feel like I spent 25 hours in one section before. That's how long I feel like I played this game for. So yeah, it's got a fantastic story as well. Absolutely fantastic. This little snippet we'll read here, it said, while Knights of the Old Republic is certainly lighter in quests, scope and general world interaction than the likes of Baldur's Gate 2, it does a fantastic job of populating each area with memorable, excellently written characters, offering a huge range of smaller subquests, from helping a dancer to impress a talent agent to performing assassinations on behalf of evil exchange. There's no shortage of humour, from outright jokes to simply wry references, and the result is one of the most enjoyable sci-fi universes thus seen on the... This is PC, I'm going to say Xbox because we're talking about the Xbox version. This sensor character is also carried by your party members. There are 9 to collect in all shapes and sizes, from Mandalorian warrior Canderous to hissing Jedi Catgirl Juhani. Each brings their own stories and problems to the table. One excellent twist is that everybody earns experience for your victories, not just the active party, ensuring that you're never left trying to shepherd a B team through trouble. This doesn't prevent the big problem. There are simply too many of them. You never get to take more than 2 in a mission, which inevitably leads to your Jedi team pounding the universe, while the more interesting kids get stuck combing the Wookiee. It's true. I think mostly I went everywhere with my Jedi team. I got to be honest with that too, because Force powers are so much fun. So, you know, I'm probably guilty of that too, but that's what you do, isn't it? Let's have a look at the review here. It says, sprawling adventure with a whole galaxy of action. Verdict says, the downside says fiddly controls and a few overblown sequences. Yeah, you got to get used to the controls, that is for sure. It says mod options none here. That was back when this review was written, but I'm sure you can probably get PC mods for this game now. I don't know for sure, to be honest. I don't know. Like I said, currently it's I think it's $4.99 or something on Steam. It's insanely priced right now, so no better time to pick it up really if you're into it, without a doubt. Outstanding RPG action that you don't have to be a fan to enjoy, 92%. And that is true. You don't have to be a fan of the Star Wars universe to play this game, because it's such a good RPG that, you know, you could probably just pick it up. If you're a fan of Baldur's Gate, for example, you would probably get a lot out of playing this game. It's got a little bit here on some of the characters. You've got Karth, who's one of them. Grizzled Republic officer Karth Onasi is your first travelling partner. He's experienced but also prone to bouts of extreme paranoia after an attack on his home world. You often end up rowing with him, but he's basically alright, and what's more, he knows how to use a gun. Storming Bastila. Your main partner throughout the game is Bastila, an inexperienced, if egotistical Jedi whose battle meditation ability has become crucial to the war effort. While she seems pious and dedicated to her ideals, there could be chinks in her morality. And HK-47 varieties. Identification HK-47. He is a protocol droid who serves you and his master. Advisory: dismiss all thoughts of C-3PO because HK-47 has a mind of a killer and revels in the chance to prove it. Just be warned, as most of his owners have met a very sticky end. Indeed. Yes, HK-47 is a very good character. I've already gone over my time limit I was going to spend on talking about games, so I'll wrap this up now. But needless to say, if you've never played Knights of the Old Republic, you should really give it a go. If you're into this type of game, if you're not into like RPGs and that sort of game, then I guess you probably wouldn't be into it. But if you are into that sort of game and you have a passing interest in Star Wars, or even if you don't, definitely would advise playing this game. You can play it in so many different ways. You can play it on any Xbox currently. I think it works on all the modern ones as well, that you can play it through backwards compatibility. You can play it on the Switch, mobile phones, PC, I think are the options, but I mean, that's a lot, isn't it, really, when you think about it? So definitely worth checking out if you never have before. My favourite Star Wars game of all time, for sure. So there we have it. That's 5 retro Star Wars games to celebrate Star Wars Day. Those games again were Star Wars on the ZX Spectrum, Super Star Wars on the SNES, Return of the Jedi on the Amiga, Shadows of the Empire for the Nintendo 64, and Knights of the Old Republic for Xbox. Hope you enjoyed the video. It was just something a little bit different. I know I usually specialise in one console or the other, or one computer, whatever, but I thought it might be nice to see a mixture of games on this one. To be honest, I was planning on doing a video 5 retro Star Wars games on the Spectrum, but there weren't that many to choose from, so I kind of figured, well, what the heck, everybody likes the retro consoles, so we'll just talk about those. I still find it quite hard to believe that we're talking about Knights of the Old Republic as a retro game. I actually still play it to this day on my Switch, so I absolutely adore that game with a passion. But crazy, isn't it, really, when you think about it? Crazy how quickly time passes. But anyway, like I said, hope you enjoyed this video, and rest assured I'm trying to make more videos as we speak, so I think it's fair to say I'm back now. Thanks so much everybody for watching. Take care, and I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.